think of.
Boya Chaka! Hey!
PartyGammon.com. Everyone's playing.
This is the PartyGammon.com Million. It's the doubles' turn to take center stage. This different format shows us how important teamwork can be. They have to agree on their moves and tactics as they plot their way around the board, or it could all end in tears. 128 backgammon players have come to this beautiful island to compete for the PartyGammon.com Million title. But there's another game drawing in the crowds, the doubles matches.
That's right, Roxanne. Doubles is a specialized format, but a whole lot of fun. 2 players per team, and they can consult with each other on every move. It's like a marriage. A happy one, we hope.
But before we head over to the action at the doubles event, let's get you up to speed on some backgammon jargon.
Pip count, the total number of spots on the dice you need to roll in order to remove all your checkers from the board.
Blocking is when you build points in front of your opponent so he can't move freely.
The word hit in backgammon is when you play your checker to the opponent's checker on top of it, and you remove it from the board and you put it on an elevated space next to the board, and then they are essentially sent all the way back and they have to re-enter the board before they can play any other part of their move.
The checker, that's are the stones. And then you say also checker play, that means how you move the stones, so that's a checker play.
Racing is when there's no contact left in the position and you just want to roll high dice and get the job done.
Candlesticks is when you are forced to or choose to pile your checkers on a few points so they form like large sticks.
A home board is where you bring all your checkers. You bring them home before you can take them off the board. That's the rule in backgammon.
Backgammon enthusiast and author Victoria Smirnoff is one of the top female players in the game. Victoria, there's a wonderful story in your book about how you got into backgammon. Can you tell me about it?
Oh yes, of course. I was spending a lot of time in Monte Carlo, and that's where I met Mike Swobodny. I had a few games with Michael, and he told me I'm totally hopeless. But he said that I should just take some classes with Paul McGreal, and for the next 4 years I was Paul's student.
And it obviously had some effect, because then you won a world title with Paul.
Yes, we won. Yes, I was rolling and Paul made the moves.
Tell me about if you feel welcome as a woman in backgammon, which is more of a man's world, it seems now.
My main interest and why actually I am playing backgammon is that I love to compete with men. I absolutely love to compete with men. I love to win. I like to see them being very upset. And you know, I've been playing, let's say I'm playing ping pong for money as well, money games, badminton, bowling. I just like to compete with men.
I understand you have a special way of preparing for each backgammon match, Victoria.
I definitely have a special way of preparing. I'm just standing on my head for a few minutes. Well, you see, yesterday I was playing and waiting and playing for 12 hours. And the day before yesterday I was playing for 6 hours in a row. And it just, your back hurts, your neck hurts. And being in a position with your head down helps quite a lot.
As we've seen so far, the cube has been a significant part of the game. It's integral to a player's strategy and is ultimately used as either player's weapon. Here's an insight onto how the cube works.
There are 3 things we're going to look at. The first one, the pip count. The second one, the cube. And the third one, how the dice land on the table, the probabilities of certain rolls occurring and others not occurring. Why is the pip count important? The pip count lets you know where you stand in the race. Backgammon is a race. You need to know where you stand to understand what play to make. One of the more common ways of quickly calculating the difference between your and your opponent's pip count is to look at the differences. Ignore those areas of the board where your counters are the same and just look at the differences. Take a look at the board and let me explain what I mean. In this simplistic example, both players have 2 stones on each of their home board. Black has 3 on the 6 and red has 3 on the 8. So the difference is 2 pips times 3 stones. Red is 6 pips behind black. There are 36 ways the dice can land on the board. But from backgammon's point of view, there are only 21 different results.
There are 6 doubles, see the red diagonal line, double 1 through double 6, and 15 non-doubles. Look at the 2 green triangles representing each of the 2 permutations of non-doubles. The green cross shows the 11 permutations of rolling a single 4. The red cross shows the 11 permutations of rolling a single 3. Using this grid, you can calculate your chances of rolling any combination of single numbers with 2 dice.
In backgammon there are no draws, but there are 3 degrees of winning, a single, a double or a treble game. And the score that you make is multiplied by the face value of this, the cube. The cube was introduced to the game in the 20th century. It significantly impacted the skill element. There is no luck involved in the use of the cube. Knowing when to accept and knowing when to drop the cube is one of the most important skills the modern expert player needs.
Look at this table to see the effect the cube can have. A double game is referred to as a gammon, and a treble game is referred to as backgammon. A single win with the cube at 1 wins a point. A gammon with a cube at 2 will win 4 points. A backgammon with a cube on 4 would win 12 points. When considering to take a cube, a player's not only considering their chance of winning from the position in the game, they also think about the effect the cube has on the score of the overall match.
We needed to introduce this subject for you so that you can understand what these experts are probably spending most of their clock time thinking about.
Falafel is one of the names in the backgammon world. A favorite coming into this tournament, but narrowly knocked out in the last 16. What is it about the way you play that you think people admire?
What has changed is that in the last few years they've developed a backgammon software that measures one's game, so to speak.
The error rate.
The error rate, yeah. And mine is, up there with some of the best players, and that's what got me kind of recognized, I think.
Let's talk about how you got into backgammon. It wasn't through the computers, was it?
No, not that. I was before that, and it was on the streets of New York where I started to play, as opposed to many other players. And when you play on the streets, you kind of get a different background to the game. It's more of like a brawl, as opposed to just like a nice little thing, where you sit at home and play. You got to figure things out, as you go along. It's not that simple.
Were there tough players back then in the New York scene?
Yeah, there were definitely some very good players there, and some are here. And so I was fortunate that I could meet them and play with them, and this way I could learn. Otherwise, it would have been a lot harder if not for some of the people from New York.
How has the game evolved? You mentioned the software, but do you have to put extra time in now to keep up with the other players?
No, actually, they have. It's the opposite way around. They got to put up with, a lot of odds to keep up with me. I figure over the last, maybe not the last year or two, but before that, say for maybe 5 years, I figured nobody has seen more positions than me in the world. Nobody has, because I've seen them all. I've spent many hours watching and playing, and nobody could equal that. I mean, it would be hard for anybody to equal that. I mean, that's all I do.
Our players are against the clock in these double matches. Are 2 heads better than 1, or will too many cooks spoil the broth? Join us for more action after the break from the PartyGammon.com million.
Now, buddy. PartyGammon.com.